Well, Minnesota Wild are hurt. And by now, for all we know, over the weekend, they're more hurt. Who knows? But Brodin, Ek, Lauko, like, it's not great. And it actually is funny enough that this was spurred from our last recording when you said basically that Jake Middleton is slowly working himself up the chart of irreplaceable players that you do not want getting hurt right now. So we just said, let's make a list. Let's rank the players that we don't want getting hurt in order. And we're going to kind of do it off the cuff here, but I feel like there are two players that are firmly in the discussion for the one spot. Do you feel like there's more than two, or do you feel like it's a gimme that like one of those two is a firm lock as the one?
I would probably say, yeah. I mean, there's two that are far ahead of anyone else, to be honest.
Okay. So who are you taking of those two as your one?
Oh, man.
Because I think we're going to have different answers.
I think I'm going to actually,
oh, never mind. Whenever you start like that, we're going to agree.
When I first thought about this, I was going in the other direction, but I do think at this point, actually, Kaprizov is going to be my number one.
Oh, so we don't agree.
Okay. I knew you were going to go Gustafsson, so.
What are the Wild doing this year without a goalie? There's so many games they became. And again, that's not to diminish what Kirill Kaprizov has done. Like, he is firmly leading the Hart Trophy debate right now. But goddamn, Gustafsson has been more than we could have asked for, and it's been so critical. And especially as we're dealing with some of these other injuries, like, he's all that more important. Now, again, you're splitting hairs. It's 1A, 1B. I would pick Gus, but I have no problem with anyone saying Kaprizov here.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to spend much time on it. Like, those are the two obvious ones. I don't think anyone's going to argue with us on either of them. The real debate then goes to number 3. Where do you fall on number 3? And it can be among the players who are currently injured as well. But like, who is the third player on the team as far as like, we can't lose this guy?
Well, and I mean, just real quick though, before we move on from like, the Gus versus Kaprizov thing, the one thing I really wasn't expecting this year is the discrepancy in games played between Fleury and Gustafsson. So like, on one hand, I'm sitting there like, well, Fleury hasn't lost in regulation. His one loss was in overtime, but he's played 6 fucking games. Like,
yeah, exactly.
He's got a 905 with a 264. So like, that would also tip it probably more towards Gustafsson than Kaprizov in the first place. But when I just look at what Kaprizov's doing, the fact that he's like probably the Hart front runner right now, he's got 15 more points than the next closest guy. And like, he's doing it regardless of who he's playing with. You take out that scoring element combined with like the hits they're taking defensively with how many guys keep getting hurt. And who knows what happens with like a guy like Spurgeon, who's had that long. He's playing really fucking well right now. Obviously he's healthy, but like he had a little bit of an injury scare. And you just look at guys like him, Merrill, Bogosian playing big minutes or bigger minutes than we probably were anticipating coming into the year. Like, if you take that top line scoring out in Kaprizov, that's why I landed there.
Yeah,
but it is tough to like gauge, which like the fact that Fleury's only played 6 fucking games this year.
So for me, where like I split the hairs and lean to Gus, I think the Wild are more built. Yeah. Like, let's just say that the only player you lose is either Kaprizov or Gus. I think this is a team that's more equipped to win a 2-1 game than a 6-5 game.
Yeah.
Because you lose Gus, you're playing the 6-5 boat race. You lose Kaprizov, let's try and squeak out a 2-1 win. That just feels more like what Bill Guerin has built if you don't have Kaprizov, right? But, again, splitting hairs. Who comes in at number 3 for you? Or how many players are in the discussion for like this next tier, since we've firmly established Gus and Kaprizov as the top tier?
I think
I've got like anywhere from 2 to 4 guys that could probably be in this next tier.
Yeah, I go between 3 and 4. And I'm not including guys that are already hurt, by the way. I'm not.
Oh, so you're not including any guys that are already hurt. Then I'm thinking 1, 2. I probably got 3 or 4. I would say 3, but 3 or 4.
Yeah. And given, and this is assuming neither
Let's
Kaprizov
not even
or
go to
Gustafson
3.
are also injured.
Right,
But
right.
I do think at this point, I think at this point now, I think I do go Middleton here with how well he's played this year.
Huh.
And this is assuming that you're also not losing Kaprizov and Gustafson.
Totally.
Goodbye with all the injuries that they already have.
Totally.
But Jake Middleton, I mean, he's got 13 points in 25 games. He's 6th on the team in scoring. He's playing 21 minutes a night. Defensively, he's shutting guys down. Like, he's become a critical. Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do if you don't have the quotes?
Top titty 2 by 4, baby.
Thank you. I think I ultimately lean towards Middleton just over Matt Boldy.
Before we even like finish out, like, who's in the tier? You said 3 or 4 guys. Give me the 4. I want to see if we're aligned on this or not.
Middleton, Boldy, Rossi, Faber.
Okay. Is that your order or just saying names?
First instinct is to go in that order. I might switch Rossi and Faber.
I would definitely switch Rossi and Faber, and I get what you're saying with Middleton, and I agree with the rationale. I still think Middleton changes if he doesn't have the right guys to lean on. True. And like losing a Faber who's munching a ton of those minutes changes what Middleton's doing. Now, if you just like put it in a vacuum and say Middleton's role changes in no way because Faber's out, then I'm okay with your argument. Mm-hmm. But the trickle down effect, I'm going to put Faber ahead of him, and I even would put Boldy ahead, but like very minimal separation. I think Rossi's the one that, like, I love Marco Rossi. I will defend him to the end of time. He's arguably not in this tier for me. He's like right on the edge. He's either the last guy in or the first guy out.
Yeah. So it's interesting too, like, because when I think part of the reason I even had, like, I put Middleton there, like, ahead of those guys is a little bit of recency bias, probably, where, like, last few games, again, aside from the fucking media stuff and this, like, the quote machine that he is, like, he's just, like, not only, like, is he putting up more numbers than I would have anticipated. I mean, he's on track to shatter his, like, single season point, like, total record for himself. But so I think that probably has something to do with the fact that I put him there. And I mean, has he been injured? Like, has he had any, like, big injuries since he got here or he got to Minnesota? I always say here, and I'm like, I don't live in Minnesota.
Yet.
No, he hasn't. He's missed before this season. He missed, I think, 4 games. And so I think that maybe that, again, the fact that he has never been. Though.
Hang on. I think there's a player that we disrespected here that I think slots in above Rossi and is firmly in this tier.
Well, there's another one that I was going to bring up that's, like, slowly, just given how it's gone and he stayed healthy again, like Spurgeon.
Yeah, Spurgeon, absolutely. I think Spurgeon has been really good, and it's weird that people still want to say that Spurgeon's been bad or isn't good. And a hot take that I had last week on Fellowship of the Rank, not that he should make it, but I think there should have been more discussion around Spurgeon's candidacy to be one of the guys on Team Canada. I know that he's not 7 feet tall, but, like, he's played freaking good since he came back.
Right. He's been
real good.
And I mean, again, he got hurt a little bit, and we're like, oh my God. And it was like, it was sounding like one of the things was like, we don't know what it is.
Sure. But if you want to go toe to toe with the dirtbag Kachucks, why not bring in the guy that's going to, like, chop off Achilles tendons?
Yeah, fair enough.
Just fucking Brady's down on the ice. Spurgeon goes down and just bites his Achilles off.
Yeah.
But yeah,
anyway,
I think we're pretty much in
anyways.
line on that though.
Yeah, and again, so like I want to at least mention that part about Middleton, just given like I do think it's just been like how well he's played the last like probably 2 weeks. He's just been a fucking animal all over the ice and everything. And then I was feeling the same thing about Rossi, by the way, but then like the reason that I put him in this tier is because outside of like the obvious Kaprizov Boldy thing, they really do struggle for offense as far as like the I don't even know if I'm allowed to say middle or bottom six. But like as far as guys that can generate points regardless of who they're playing with. And like Rossi, again, he can be a ghost for a period or two. Yeah. And then boom, all of a sudden he assists on the OT winner the other night against Vancouver. Sure. And I'm like, if you lose the guy who like, regardless of who he's played with, has put up just shy point per game numbers, then I think that's why I end up including him in this tier. Cause it's like, again, like Hines would like bench him for fucking like 5 shifts. Next shift he's out there, he gets another goal or gets an assist or whatever it is. And like big goals, big assists, like he's come up in big moments. And just like given the fact that like we mentioned this last week, aka 2 hours ago, the fact that the big sign in the offseason has 1 assist in 25 games, and like you're looking for any kind of secondary offense, the fact that Rossi can just produce regardless of who his line mates are, I think that's why I end up having him like pretty firmly in this tier. But like that's just fair. given the fact that I do recognize it's like at the same time, like there's an argument like, hey, does he belong there? But like for me, just the fact that he's able to produce the way he's producing out of nothing is something that you don't really have a lot of in this lineup.
That's very fair. Am I fair to say that no one else that's currently healthy really falls onto this kind of list, and it's really Brodin and Eck who would both probably be top 5 on the list?
Yeah, I think so.
Like Eck would be number 3 for me.
Yeah.
And Brodin's probably 4 or 5 based on how he's played.
Mm-hmm.
The one I'll give an honorable mention to, who would you peg as like your next guy who's not on the list, but like deserves commendation? So I feel like there's like 2 or 3 that could be discussed, but there's one that I'm very keen on. I feel like you're going to go against me.
For the comedic element, there's 2.
Okay, well, I'm not going for comedic element.
They've produced recently, and they've been just like solid contributors on whatever line they're on, despite like the points not jumping out. I think Freddie Gaudreau, with how well he's played recently, and he's got 14 points in 25 games, and fucking like Johansson has points in like 7 of 8. Like,
dear Lord.
But the one I go is, I think I end up leaning towards like Foligno.
See, I figured you would say Foligno, and I respect it. Declan Chisholm has been a fucking rock star lately.
He's been so good. He's been so fucking good.
If he can keep playing that way and we can get a healthy blue line, like, holy shit. Like, do the Wild all of a sudden have, like, a top 3 blue line in the league?
Might.
Middleton, Faber, Spurgeon, Brodin, Chisholm, insert 6th guy. Maybe it ends up being Juracek. Like, oh.
Yeah.